So we've got today with us, joining us today, Nicole Melling, Kasha Petit, and Courtany Chambers. Do you want to guys come on stage? I'm just going to briefly say a little bit about each of you. So we've got Nicole. Do you want to wave? So Nicole started playing at QPR's Girls before moving to the Middlesex FA Centre of Excellence and then joined Arsenal. She's now back at QPR after taking a break to study as well. I'll be really interested to hear from you about that. And then we have Kasha, who started in the under-12 team at QPR in 2003, and you've been in the team ever since, and you're now captain of the team. And you were named QPR's PFA Community Champion in 2023. And finally, we have Courtany. You also started at QPR when you were 8 years old. You then moved to Arsenal, the London Bees, and now you're back in the team at QPR. So welcome. I'm also going to call a few more brilliant women. The first one is Najma Arefi. So Najma played, you've seen Najma in the video earlier. She played for Arefi City in Afghanistan before seeking asylum in the UK in 2021. Let's give her a big clap. And Najma took part in the Amnesty International football program, and we have one of the brilliant people from Amnesty today joining us, Sandy Abi-Elias, who's the women's football officer. Also dropped earlier casually that she played for the Lebanon national team as well, so also a brilliant football player. And finally, we're joined by Fernandes, who's a football consultant and an FA community champion. Okay, so I think the first question, is this is the first time you've all seen the film, and is this a story you knew about? Were any of you familiar with this story?
No. Wasn't familiar myself.
No. Am I meant to say no? Like,
yeah,
mine's a yes. Mine's a yes. I knew about it, but obviously watching it feels a lot different.
Yeah. And I guess like you've just seen it, and was there anything that really struck you, like anything that surprised you when you watched the film?
Yeah, I think just how it kind of went from being such a high to literally nothing, like radio silence. You kind of expected to have the same effect like the Euros had, and like have a bit of a snowball effect, but obviously it wasn't the case. So yeah, that for me.
I think for myself, it was the standard, the crowds that were there cheering them on. We've recently played a stadium game, and I think we obviously buzz off of that. But just seeing the crowd enjoyment, the way they were getting followed around, and I think that was obviously great to see. And the sort of rebellious stuff around it as well was quite shocking.
Yeah, I'd never heard of this film before until obviously today, and just seeing it sort of how it's progressed now than what it was. I just think that obviously they were the ones that started it off, so credit to them.
I never heard about this story before as well. It was quite impressive, and they did a great job that for the new generation, they're inspiration, and they did it for all of their kids and the women that are coming in this platform.
Yeah, obviously I mentioned that I had heard about it before, obviously not the film specifically, but the history of women's football, because at Amnesty, within our leadership program, I'm a mentor for 12 refugee women. We've just had our pilot project, and one of the sessions that I did was the history of women's football. So I knew about it, and obviously I tried to educate as much as possible, but it's a whole different story when you're actually watching it. But yeah.
Did it match what you thought it would look like seeing the footage of it?
It's completely different. Even seeing what Kasha said, even seeing the stadiums being packed, it's amazing to see. But then it's kind of it's so amazing, and then it's just it's not anymore. So yeah. But yeah.
Maya, anything?
Yeah, I think just amazing to see the scale of it, how big it was, and it's just great that we've got the footage that we can say this really happened. Not just depending on people's stories.
And I guess in the beginning of the film, I think when the American player says, like, you know, knowing about the story is kind of a mix of, like, it's joyful but also more like infuriating. Like, is that something that resonates with you when you watch this? You know, I can see you nodding, Sandy.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like, you're happy that the story is getting told, right? But at the same time, it's just so frustrating because, like, how, like, why did that happen? Like, it's so annoying because it's just like, it was so good. And seeing how far women's football's come now and where we're at now, it's amazing. But imagine how big it could be if that didn't happen. So yeah, it's frustrating, but it's amazing, but it's also frustrating. So yeah, it's a bit of a frustrating one, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Mixed emotions around it because our stories have been impacted by that massively and where we possibly could be. I think it's great seeing them talk about it and how emotional that time was for them. And I think definitely resonated when they were basically saying that they were rebelling against not playing football. And I think sat here today as well, all of us that play would probably be in a similar position. But for myself, just my job has probably changed, and we know that we play football out of the love of it, and that's something that we can definitely say we resonate with them playing in that tournament.
Yeah, thank you. And also just to say, I'm asking a question, but it's just not about me. We'll have time for you guys to ask question at the end. So, but I'm just kind of building on what you've just said here. Like, what was it like for you when you started? Like, did you have any role models as a young player?
Yeah, so for me it would have been Emma Byrne. So I play in goal, and like you mentioned, used to play at Arsenal. So we kind of had the opportunity to go along to the games and kind of analyse the player in our position. So I would always kind of get to see Emma Byrne play. So yeah.
Myself, growing up, I watched the Women's FA Cup. Was actually probably the first women's football I've seen on TV, and every year, and I ended up watching quite a lot of. It was like Fulham Arsenal at the time, and Rachel Yankee was someone that I sort of personally followed and really saw as a role model personally as well, because she like someone that looked like me. So I was growing up thinking, oh, okay, one day I'll play on the TV in the FA Cup. So yeah, and followed that as well. Hope Powell, obviously England women's, and being a coach. So again, that's affected my journey. I'm a coach now as well. So I feel like they've definitely heavily impacted me and myself and my journey through football.
Yeah, mine's sort of the same as Kasha's because growing up, obviously watching Rachel Yankee, I was at Arsenal. She's left-footed, I'm left-footed. So yeah, it was great to sort of see and be able to go to games and just be sort of pushed on by them, really. Kelly Smith as well was another one. Yeah, I think they were great.
For me, it's a little bit different because in Afghanistan we didn't used to like watch too much TV, and like watching the football for the women and the girls was not like something usual. I started playing football with the boys on the street, but after a little bit I grew up, like I turned 13, 14. After that my parents and my like family didn't allow because I was growing up. And I think I started when a girl came to our school and said, we're gonna make a football team just for us, a hobby. You can spend some time after the school, and it's very good. And we started playing football, and it happened. It's turned from a hobby to a habit to go every day and do training and like to see yourself one day in the television.
Brilliant. And now you're part of the Amnesty football program. What's it been like for you?
It was a great opportunity for me that I participated with the Amnesty, and I work with them. I learned so many things from Sandy, Amnesty, and like how the football is impact in the girls and women, and how it can help everyone that they want what they want to achieve in their dreams, and they can achieve it if they try their best.
Thank you. And I think we see in the film like the importance of women's football in terms of, you know, kind of almost like a pathway to freedom and kind of building confidence and that feeling of belonging as well, bringing women together. And Sandy, can you maybe tell us a little bit more about the Amnesty football program, and why did Amnesty decide to invest in football?
Okay, cool. So yeah, I'll speak about what Amnesty does, and then obviously I'll relate it to like why women's football, or more specifically in my case, why refugee women's football, right? So at Amnesty, we have a program called our Football Welcomes Program. And it was launched in 2017. And we have 3 areas of our Football Welcomes program. So we have our Football Welcomes community projects, we have our Football Welcomes month, and then we have me, obviously the Women's Football Officer. But obviously not specifically me, but the role of Women's Football Officer at Amnesty International UK, right? So I'll speak a little bit about the first 2, and then I'll relate it back to women's football. Like why women's football. So in terms of the Football Welcomes community projects, that was launched in 2019. And what it is a 3-year program that is funded by Amnesty International UK. And it was established to find the most effective way for football clubs to work with local organizations within their local communities to create more welcoming communities for refugees and people who are seeking asylum. So what it consists of is weekly football sessions for refugees and people who are seeking asylum for both men and women. And as well as that, providing any additional opportunities for the participants as well. And what I mean by additional opportunities is kind of anything. So anything that the participants want to do, the community projects will try to provide that, right? So, for example, that could be coach development, so potentially putting the participants on their level 1 or level 2 coaching course. Could be refereeing, for example, again, putting them on a level 1. It could be English language, it could be maths, it could be graphic design, literally it could be anything. And then the community projects will then try to make that happen, right? So with the community projects as well, we emphasize the importance of putting on sessions for refugee women and girls. So all of the community projects have to and do put on sessions for refugee women and girls because there's such a need for it within the football space, which I'll get onto in a second. So that's the community projects. And then we have our Football Welcomes month. So the month runs throughout the month of April each year, and is to celebrate the contribution that refugees have had to the game of football, and also how we can use football as a tool to foster positive social change and create more welcoming communities. So each year we get hundreds of football clubs, county FAs, local organizations, individuals coming together to show their support for refugees and people who are seeking asylum. So there's many ways in which people can show their support, but more specifically in regards to clubs and how clubs show their support is by, I'm going to go for a few examples. So they can wear our Football Welcomes t-shirts to warm up in before a match. So obviously then creating awareness for their fans. The fans might then see the t-shirt and be like, oh, what's Football Welcomes? Have a little Google, and then there's quite a lot of information on there. So creating awareness, right? So t-shirts, and then from that also creating content and then to post on social media. Then posting on their website, having a page in their matchday program specifically for Football Welcomes as well, releasing press releases. Also foundations can host tournaments for their refugee participants, so that could be obviously whatever football clubs within the area, their foundations all coming together and putting on a tournament. Also having iftar events as well, because the last few years what a lot of clubs have done has put on iftar events for their Muslim participants, because obviously our Football Welcomes program kind of coincides with Ramadan. So yeah, there's quite a few examples. A lot more as well. We're very much open to kind of ideas from clubs. So some clubs will also go into schools as well and teaching their students about refugees and people seeking asylum and the relationship in regards to football. So that's our month. And then what I do in terms of the month is get as many women's teams involved as possible, basically. So that's my role in regards to the month. So that's the community projects, that's the month. And then why women's football? It's quite a broad question. Aside from obviously playing football my whole life, more specifically in regards to Amnesty, why women's football? There's such a need for it in the space. There's such a need for refugee women and girls having a space within football for them. And the reason why I say that, and there's quite a lot to it as well, as to why I think that there's a gap within the football space that doesn't think about refugee women and girls. And I believe it's because of the lack of thought about intersectionality. And whoever potentially hasn't heard the term intersectionality before or doesn't really know about it, intersectionality was a term coined by Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw in the 1980s, specifically 1989. And the theory is how overlapping and intersecting social identities can combine to create different modes of discrimination, oppression, and domination, so therefore privilege, right? So in the football space, which some of you may agree or disagree, I don't know, but this is very much my personal opinion, the football space can be very like one-dimensional, and they see it as, let's say, like disability, gender, race, ethnicity, religion. They don't see it as like all together. And obviously as individuals, we're multi-dimensional, right? Like there's so many areas to us, so many different identities that can combine to make us, right? So why is the football space not showing that? So refugee women and girls kind of fall through the gap. So an example of that is in the football space, we have sessions for refugees, but they're very much mainly for men. No women will really attend unless it's a specific refugee women's session. So we have refugee sessions that don't think about refugee women. We then have women's sessions, women and girls sessions, right? But they don't think about the needs of refugee women and girls. So that's where the gap is. So that's where we're not thinking about intersectionality. So I'm in my post at Amnesty International as the Women's Football Officer to create that change across the whole of the UK. So that is why women's football, and that is why more specifically refugee women in football, because I want to create that change and make a space for refugee women and girls and kind of be a voice for the voiceless.
Thank you. That's fantastic. And if people are interested in the program, is there anything they can do in the audience, people, to support what you're doing?
Yeah, so obviously I said a few examples in regards to our Football Welcomes Month. But yeah, if you are interested, grab me for a chat after. I do have my business cards, kind of always have to be prepared. So yeah, have a chat with me, and then we can see ways in which you guys can potentially support. But what I will say on that is that we appreciate any type of support. And I feel like when we go through the examples, and some clubs may think like, or some individuals may think, oh, that's quite a lot, I don't think I can do that. But we don't, that's okay. If you can just post on social media, we very much appreciate just the post on social media, because that then creates awareness, right? So, or if you can do everything, I mean, that's also amazing too, and we appreciate that as well. So yeah, just grab me for a chat if you're interested.
Brilliant, thank you. And talking about change and change around women's football, and you mentioned it, obviously, after the Euros of the Lionesses win 2 years ago, there's been a lot of change in the UK around football, and maybe Maria, to start with you, you know, how do you feel we are, you know, 2 years down the line with that change?
Yeah, I think definitely after the Euros, there's been obviously there's been greater visibility, there's a lot more interest and a lot more awareness of opportunities. And the FA and the county FAs working with partners. You know, for example, here in the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, we're working with the council, we're working with the London FA, with Karma Bank, with local schools, local organisations, to really see what opportunities we can create for women and girls, and anyone really, because, you know, we want people to have opportunities, whether that's playing, coaching, administration, any opportunities for football. Because like you said, football, you know, has the power to have positive impact on people's lives.
What about you as players? Do you see a difference? How the past 2 years been like?
Well, personally myself, as I mentioned, I'm a player and a coach, so I'm actively out there and I'm sort of impacting the next generation of girls that are coming through. I personally believe that there's still like a way to go in terms of like accessibility for young girls, especially like inner city girls that are coming through. A lot of football clubs do have that opportunity to take them to the next level, but in terms of maybe where they're based, and these young girls sort of getting there because of their challenges, their personal challenges and barriers, I think that's sort of the gap that we still need to help bridge. It's great to see that women's football is now, as you mentioned, like not much more visible in terms of, you know, TV rights and them getting like Sky Sports and finals being on TV and being sold out and being played at Wembley. I just feel like in terms of the bottom step and getting, you know, young girls there, there's still some changes to make, but it is definitely going in the right direction. So.
Great, thank you. And Najma, you play now in Doncaster, is that right?
Yeah, I do.
How is that going? Is that?
Yeah, it is very. I am very appreciated because we have now a chance to play again. after like we evacuated from Afghanistan, during the Taliban took over the government, there is no hope for the women and girls that they can go to school or they can do any sports. But then we moved to the UK, and everyone is very happy that they can continue the things that they did in Afghanistan, like their education, their sport, and it's very good. But still, there is a lot of women and girls back in Afghanistan that they cannot do the things that we can do here, and it's make me so sad to see them these days in the news, and it's very bad. I think that no one is doing nothing about them.
And you've actually, with some other players, you've worked on a campaign because we see in the film FIFA didn't recognize this tournament and still hasn't. And FIFA is not at the moment recognizing the Afghanistan women's football team.
Yeah, after like that, Taliban took over the government, the FIFA, the Confederation of the Asia, and also the FIFA didn't recognize the Afghan women's teams to play on the competitions. And last year they removed our name from the competition in the Asia Cups. That because we didn't have any teams, they say you don't have any team when you cannot recognize them. But many advocates like Khalida Poupal, Malala Yousaf say that they're working for the girls and women's. They requested a letter to the FIFA to accept women and allow women to play football again, and just against the Taliban, that we can raise our voice. But it's still we're waiting, and the FIFA is still silent, and they're not doing nothing for us, and it's very disappointed, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a petition online that people can sign to call FIFA to recognize the team.
There is still there, and Khalida Poupal is still doing it for us, and let's see what's happening for us, because it's the same situation I'm thinking that happened for that woman's, that after like 15 years we discover what happened to them, and it's going to be happen for us, that we go down. And it was just like after 20 years we're happy that we're going up again, and just it's happened sometimes. You not expected the time that's happening.
So do have a look online and sign the petition to support this campaign. I just wanted to come back also to what's interesting in the film is obviously we see that this all kind of came out as almost like a commercial kind of opportunity, like these businessmen saw this as a business opportunity, and we see now a lot more money coming into the game, but it's a very kind of contrasted picture, right? We see, recently Switzerland announced that they wouldn't be investing as much as they were expecting in the Euros they're organizing, and so, what's the... Feels like money is still a very core issue in women's football, and Maria, maybe it'd be interesting to hear your perspective on that and where we're at around money especially.
Yeah, I think money's obviously, it has a role to play in sort of the growth of the game and everything. I think I'm also quite concerned about player welfare and just making sure that we're looking after players, and there's the recent, I know Beth Mead and stuff is working on the ACL and stuff like that, but it's really important that as we grow the game and, the more fixtures and stuff are playing, we're also looking after the players and making sure that their welfare is, physical and mental health is being looked after as well.
And what about you as players? Like, are you able to live off football at the moment? Or is it like, do you have to, like, because you took a break to study, right? So explain a bit why you did that.
I did. I was at Arsenal up until reserves, at which point I think there's very few players that kind of had professional contracts. So like we'd go to train and see the first team and they'd just be coming from another job. So that was kind of one of the reasons why. I then kind of went to uni, and then I done my accounting degree. So for us, we don't get paid. We just kind of play it because we love it. But it's good to see that now, kind of not just in the WSL. I have friends that kind of do it full time in the championship. So there's been movement, but there's still a long way to go.
Exactly the same as what Nicole said in terms of in the championship now you're seeing more sort of teams going full time. So it's just about pushing that in the right direction. And also from the leagues below from that, it's about maybe getting more funds for them, because it's great that obviously the two top teams are they are flying, but then there is that gap of we not forgotten about, but it needs to be sort of improved in that aspect.
From my point of view as well, just watching that when the Mexico team were, beforehand not playing that final, I think that like related with like my heritage, like Jamaican background, and that's something that happened recently as well, prior to the World Cup, when there was talk about them not getting paid, and I think that we should have come a long way since then. That we're asked to go out there and, like I said, put our bodies on the line, and there's higher risk of injuries, and I think everyone forgets that like they are due what they are due, just like the men are as well. So I think there's still ways to go, but hopefully that all changes in the future, and it's not spoken about like that. It's just done.
Thank you. I think we have time for questions from the audience now. And there's a microphone out there, so just raise your hand.
Don't all ask at once.
It's too shy.
There must be one question.
That's a good question.
I have no idea.
It must be now if there's made some changes. So some women must have got in their ear and gone, come on, potentially, hopefully. I know there's a lot of women that work in like the Premier League now, the FA. There's plenty of jobs there, so I'm sure FIFA have hopefully followed suit and got there.
Yeah, no, there is definitely some amazing women doing some amazing work, but obviously, it's obviously taking time for them, and it's growing, but it's going to take time for them to make that change. And there are some consultants and stuff, people working with them, but yeah, hopefully there'll be more in future.
This question over there.
Hi. What comes out in the film is a lot of insecurity and paranoia from men in relation to women's football, which still exists today, let's be honest. And my question is, what do you think women can do to power women's games forward so that they can get to where they need to get to, despite men, instead of, because of them?
I will jump in and say I think it has to be a collective, as in both men and women. I think we need a lot of allies within the space, male allies within the space, to speak when we're not there, right? So they need to push the women's game as much as we need to push the women's game, and I think that's when hopefully eventually we will start to be heard a little bit more, because unfortunately, yes, like men will listen to men, like the higher you go up in football, maybe not so much that they'll listen to women. That is a barrier that we face, especially within the professional world, not necessarily as a player, but also as like professionals ourselves, obviously within the space, right? So I have definitely had experiences where I'll be questioned on the work that I do, when they don't know anything about refugee women's football, and I'm like expressing this is what clubs need to do, etc., and they're like, well, no. And I'm like, well, yeah, like, what do you mean no? So there's a lot of barriers that we face, and I just think, when we have male allies with us, I think it's very much going to be easier to kind of make it bigger and better, right? If that makes sense, but hopefully.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, I
Question over
definitely
there.
agree.
Sorry, my question follows on from that a little. How many clubs in both National League and the FA are involved in
The football outcomes
Amnesty
program.
and the football? Yeah,
That's a good question. So each year, obviously, it differs. Obviously, in terms of my role, I try to get as many women's teams involved as possible. So in terms of the Women's National League specifically, last year we had, so just the Women's National League, so we had 32 Women's National League teams supporting. I believe there's about 50 or 60 Women's National League teams. But before that, maybe it was like 10. Before that, it was like 0. So we're starting to build it up, right? And this year, obviously, I'm trying to get more. So hopefully this year, we'll see, in terms of Women's National League, maybe pushing the 35, 40. I mean, I'm not going to complain if there's more than that. But yeah, that's in terms of the Women's National League. But in terms of women's participation as a whole, in terms of clubs from all the different leagues, We've gone from when we first launched in 2017, bear in mind I've only been in post for 2 years, but when it first launched in 2017, we had 0 women's teams. And then 2018, I believe there was maybe like 5. But that then showed for Amnesty that we need a women's football officer, right? To then push more specifically for women's football and women's football engagement. So then I think it progressed 2019, 2020 to about 20 women's teams. And then 2 years ago, I managed to get it to 44. So it jumped from about 12, 20 to 44. And then last year, I managed to get 68. And then this year, obviously, I'm trying to get a whole lot more. Obviously, in terms of the men's side, we can get hundreds of men's clubs getting involved. But yeah, I'm still trying to push the women's side.
Okay, we've got time for one more.
To like all of you, if you could change any one thing or improve any one thing about how women's football is accepted or like established like today, what would it be?
Go on and Courtney.
We'll start with you. Go on.
Wait, I didn't hear the question properly. I was trying to find who was talking.
If you can change one thing.
Change one thing.
One thing about
Women's football. No, if you could change one thing about women's football.
I'll start, it's fine. I would just, like, similar to what you said, it shows that there's paranoia in it. I think I would just make it, like, non-threatening. Like, it is non-threatening. It's a great space that everyone supports each other. I think the great example there was when their team bus broke down and Italy came to get them. I was like, okay, that to me doesn't seem so strange, but it would do in the men's world. But there's such a great respect and allyship there, I think, within women's football, and it's such a, like a great space that actually it should be celebrated. When I go to FA Cup finals, I'm seeing, Chelsea or Arsenal fans, they're sitting like kind of within each other. It's starting to go a little bit separately now, but like you see whole families there together and supporting the game, and it's the same game, but it's just enjoyed by a different community and fans as well. So I think showing that and highlighting that would be a great thing.
I think I would do like the women's national team with the men's national team get the same payment, and they show they like equal payment for them. I know it's way, but it's money, and they will like put all their effort for that much, or like they put all of their like 4, 5, 6 years of their life to be on that stage that they want, and they should to pay the same equal amount that they're paying for the men's. Equality.
Yeah, I think kind of similar to that is just visibility. I think some clubs do it really well, like Man City. But yeah, you've got clubs that are really quiet on their women's side, but the men's side, there'll obviously be promotion. So yeah, probably that.
Yeah, and I think obviously with us being at QPR, the men are quite supportive of us. Like we do get invited to games, and sort of we're all included. But I think for every other club, it would be nice if the men's team could, help push on, just to make the women feel a bit more welcome. Even a hello, it goes a long way, No, like because some clubs it's very like men and women is separated, whereas we're all human beings. Do you know what I mean? So. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just breaking down perceptions, and I think still just trying to show that it's okay to women and anyone can be involved in football and to like football. And I think there's work by Fans for Diversity, taking more fans and taking them to grounds and letting them see this is a place where they can be a fan, they can watch, whether it's women's football, men's football, anyone. I think for me still with the community stuff, it is still breaking perceptions and helping people to realise there is a place for them.
Do you have one thing you need to change?
I feel like there's quite a lot of things that we need to change. So to pinpoint one.
One.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Just
To
one
pinpoint one
one.
is quite difficult. It's quite difficult. I would say as a quick one, potentially the referees in the space. I think that's been spoken about quite a lot. I don't think necessarily the referees are bad, but where the women's game is going and growing, we need to grow with that in every aspect of the game, so referees included.
I do think they're pretty poor.
Okay, I didn't want to be mean.
I'm just going to be real. They are.
Okay, I didn't want to be mean, but
keep an eye on
maybe.
QPR Women's for Courtney's next
Sorry
yellow
for
card.
any referees in the room. Okay, so one last question to wrap up. The next big international competition is going to be the Paris Olympics. And I would love to hear from each of you who you think is going to win and why is it France? No, I'm joking.
I don't want to say because whoever I pick goes out first, though.
I actually thought France. This is like being in Paris. I think is like a huge thing. You get that boost, like Mexico did. Hopefully not just the referees getting on the side, but I think it is like a massive boost as we saw in the Euros as well. Just playing in your home country. So I think, and they've got a really strong team obviously as well. So I think I think France will at least get to the finals, if not win it.
Good answer.
Yeah, I'm going to say France as well. I'm just going to copy Kasha.
Yeah, I agree with you, France. Because it's their home. Like basically, they put all of their effort that their country win to do everything, as Mexico did, and it's like the history. Hopefully, the history will not repeat it, but I'm just guessing.
I would like to say Lebanon, just because I'm part Lebanese, but I don't think that's going to happen because we're only entering one athlete. So I'm an optimistic person, but like not that much. So by default, I'm just going to say Great Britain.
I think for me, I hope that it's a really great showcase for sport in general, and for everyone to just enjoy it and to have a great experience. I think,
Can't sit on the fence like that. You can't do that.
We need the names.
Can I just say, in addition to that, this is the first Olympics where we've had, I don't know if some of you may know this, but this is the first Olympics where we have a 50-50 split of both participation from male athletes, but participation from female athletes. This is the first year where we have equal male and female athletes participating, which is amazing to see the growth, because previous years I think we've had 48%, 42%, 28%, like not a lot in comparison to men's participation. So this year having 50-50 is great to see.
Brilliant. Thank you so much to all of you. Do go and speak to Sandy and sign the petition. And one last
just one very quick one. So through Karma Bank, we actually spoke to the wonderful Ikra, who's with QPR's community engagement team. And you can actually see these fabulous players play if you would like to have tickets for the women's game. So please get in contact with Karma Bank and you will have some tickets. And then hopefully after the first, you'll keep going, which would be great. You'll become new fans. So and also, of course, go if you're in Doncaster. You got to go and see Najma and Doncaster. All right, thank you very much, guys. Thank you for making it.
Thank you.
Thank you.